Hello. Is the stream of setting up cursor still on the table? Yes. I think that'll be amusing if nothing else. However, I sort of want to save that for when I do some actual programming that's new. And that's not this stream. This stream, I'm doing minor incremental changes. Although, who knows? Maybe it'll get major. Maybe cursor, I would just run it and say, fix my problem. And it would do it, maybe. That's what everybody says. That's what everybody says. You just say, magically make me a program that makes $20 billion, and it does it. So, you know, someone sent my long ASM tweet to one of the GPTs. I mean, what I saw, if it was the reply in that thread, it just was mostly repeating back what I said, which is really not. I stopped reading because it was like about as long as my original post. And I'm like, why would I read something as long as my original post? It's just repeating what I said. So I gave up. So, as you know, one of the things I've been thinking about is like, how do we reformulate macros? Do we stop using backticks? Do we do something else? Whatever, right? And all that's fine. And as a way of helping thinking about it, because I don't know exactly what I want to do yet, as a way of helping thinking about it, I can like review the current state of things by working on something that I'm kind of unhappy about and trying to clean it up and make it better, because I have no idea why I thought this was the right solution at the time. So either today I'm going to re-find out why other things didn't work, or maybe some other stuff in the way we're doing the compiler improved and this works better now or something. Okay. And the thing that I really don't like is, you know, you have for a scope, right? Any scope that could hold variables, that's a common data structure that you would have in any compiler. We have that. And scopes in general, again, almost every programming language works this way. You have a parent scope, right? Like if you're a nested block inside another block inside a function, you can like walk up the parent scopes to go to those guys, right? Great. So far, so easy. Now, however, etc. You know, we have hygienic macros, and the macros, you know, they, like if you're looking up an identifier inside the macro, you want it to behave like a normal function where it doesn't change based on where the macro is being invoked, because that's stable. Like your code is stable when you can do that, right? Like, you know, in Lisp, I don't remember if original Lisp was dynamically scoped, but at least some of the major variants of Lisp originally were dynamically scoped, and it's trash, dude, because like when you try to look up a variable, you might find a different one based on the calling path to the call site. It's just, it sounds cool, like, oh, that's a feature I could use somehow, but in reality, it's like horrible when you're just trying to program using that, right? And so you don't want that in macros either. So they behave like functions normally, so they have a normal scope chain, right? However, when you want to be able to backtick something and say like, hey, this declaration in this macro is getting inserted in a certain place, we have to know where to put that. And the way that I implement this currently is every single block. I mean, there's way too many members on these blocks, and we have to, these could all be combined and, whoops, thanks Visual Studio. These could all be combined and whatever. But there's just way too much stuff here, okay? And, some of it, like this could be moved into a hash table somewhere, and we just set a flag if we should check a hash table, because most scopes don't have defers on them, right? So all of this is stuff that we could slim down. Okay, but this one bugs me especially because I've just had a hard time with it. Like, doing the hygienic macros was way more annoying and way more grunt work than I thought it would be. And every time I work on it, I feel like my IQ is like, low. And I don't know why. I just always have a problem with it. And it's not rocket science. It's just like somehow things get complicated in a way that I don't like. Now, historically in this compiler, that's happened with a number of systems. And whenever, so as I've said before, whenever I get scared of code, I definitely make a point of going back and redoing it, right? So that I'm not scared of it anymore. Now here, I wouldn't say that I'm scared of this backtick management, but because it's not like really that super complicated, but it's messy and annoying, and there's always cases that I didn't think of. And maybe part of the reason that this was complicated before was because the implementation of how you would navigate the scopes used to be tied up very tightly with some implementation details of older versions of the compiler about how, like, the evaluating expressions in dependency order and stuff worked. And like, I would always tie my brain in knots trying to think about it. Like I was dating a girl for a little bit in, God, it was 3 years ago at this point. And we were in Hawaii. We were like chilling in Hawaii in like a rented place. And I was like, decided to work on the compiler. And this was like literally Christmas to New Year's vacation, right? And I couldn't, like, it just took days of thinking really hard about this to like make small to medium sized progress on it, because it just has so many issues and so many confusing things. And that's just really stupid. Like this just shouldn't be that complicated, right? And so that's all. That's just the background of this. But I also don't remember what the specific problems were, because like it was literally 3 years ago last time that I did a very thorough thing. I might have done some major stuff since then, but all right, I have this file called Y that I'm just opening. And it's a file where I can resize this. Here, I'll just paste it into Emacs though. Where is it? This is just a thing where once in a while, when things are complicated, I document them. I don't know if there's going to be a macro explanation in here, but there might be. For a minute, you were blaming her. What is the role? I don't, because we were just having a chill vacation away from everything, right? And it was a good time to collect my thoughts and just hanging out. We were in Hawaii. We were on the big island. There's sort of these off the grid places that you could Airbnb that are in this like lava area. It was like very chill. I don't know. It's just that a week or two that I remember, despite the fact that the relationship could not be said to have gone well. You know, I'm trying to use the last of this honey. I have here this Manuka honey, but I also have the best honey in the universe, which is Bjorn's whipped cinnamon Colorado honey. It's so delicious. So I'm just trying to use up this. I have like 9 honeys still. Not honeys you hang out with in Hawaii, but like 9 jars of honey in my apartment still. And so if I can take 1 or 2 down, that's fine. The Manuka honey takes forever to dissolve. Have I ever played Disco Elysium? No, I have not. Okay. So, this is about overloading. I'm not going to read that right now. Loop control. Okay, this is one of the things that I was really fucking confused about. Right? Because it involves macros. If no identifier... Oh, God, this fucking thing. Oh, this confused me so much. It'll probably still confuse me. We used to just look up the scope chain from the loop controls. This is like, by loop control, I mean like break, continue, or whatever, right? And the complication is the way that we do... So one of the major classes of macros that we have is like an iterator replacement macro, right? And you can do that, and you can define new meanings for break and continue and remove inside that macro expansion. And that code, oh God, I don't want to touch that today. I hope we don't have to. That is, now that I remember, that was actually one of the most confusing things. And it's really weird because usually I'm smart, but like, and this doesn't sound that complicated, but I was so confused, dude. If an identifier is used, we need to map to a target for loop. Yeah. So this is a little bit after. No, wait. Is this before? Yeah, that vacation would have been December 2021. So I figured this out before that and took these notes. Yeah. So this is about initializers. This came up again recently. Yeah, there's a thing about insertions in what we do. Okay, so there's not really any helpful notes here about what we're going to go look at. Is there any other file? I have a notes directory. Bytecode stalling, ideas replaces roadmap. Boy, that roadmap file is probably old. Didn't even remember I wrote it. No, the European cores are still turned on because every time, like if I sit down and start to stream, I don't want to do that. And then at the end of the stream, I'm done and I don't want to do something else. So, you know. It's not easy. All right, we've used all the Manuka honey and it's not enough. So we're going to mix honeys in one tea. It is a golden monkey tea. On your 12 gen, you were able to disable them. Really? Because someone told me I wouldn't be able to disable all of them. Maybe that person was a liar. Somebody said you have to leave one active. Do I like maple syrup? I mean, I don't like drink maple syrup. Is it not a question of motherboard UX? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there's something about the architecture design that requires one. In place of honey, I don't think I would consider that. Do I have an idea about what is the biggest challenge that I have not solved yet? I mean, a few months ago, we should do another update in mid-January, but I did one of the Q&As that we do sometimes. And I said what the major issues are. And I don't remember if I posted that on YouTube. I think I did. So if you go on my YouTube channel, you can see like a multi-hour discussion of what all the issues are and what's on the roadmap. But macros are one of the major issues, and that's part of why I'm working on them now. Not sure you will even look Intel's way next time you need to upgrade your computer. I would recommend against it. I would recommend get an AMD CPU. Or, you know, like an ARM-based computer. Even though, like, I don't want to run macOS, and I certainly don't want to run Android. But, you know. Okay. So. I just want to look at how this gets used. Like, I'm not going to put any pressure on myself to get anything done this stream because my experience with this scope stuff has been so negative that, like, it's a win if I can just even look at it and not have a bad time. So we're just going to do that. Hopefully it won't take Intel too many years to get back on track. I don't know. A lot of engineers quit. A lot of engineers quit Intel. So, including, like, I know several very high up people who quit. And, like, can they survive that knowledge loss? You have a MacBook for work, they're insanely fast. I mean, this computer is insanely fast too. It's just everyone keeps making software slower. Like, literally everything I do on this computer should be completely instant. Your boss is one of the ones that quit. Okay, well, we'll see. Sometimes if a lot of people quit, it gives you room to, like, restructure and fix problems, right? But it also means you lose a lot of knowledge. So, I don't know. Intel might be done. I'm not sure. I mean, they'll definitely keep making things, right? So, like, even after the PowerPC CPU fell off, IBM still kept making it. Like, they probably still make it, right? Like, is there... They're still making servers, I guess. Power 10 is... How new is Power 10? List of PowerPC processors. 2016, 2021. Okay. So they've got the Power 10 series from 2021. And I guess they're still cranking those out. Like, who buys these? I don't know. Someone in the government. 6502 is still being made. Yeah, but, like, there's lots of reasons to want, like, a low power, low complexity CPU, right? But I just mean, like, you know, MIPS architecture is still alive. Yeah, so I can go program some handwritten assembly using the branch delay slots, and it's still relevant. Uh, dude, the branch delay slot. We've talked about that before. Um, Power is still in use in avionics. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's lots of like legacy software and firmware and stuff that all wants to work with that. And like, if you've got a whole avionics system, you don't want to scrap it and restart, right? Intel GPUs are pretty competitive. Yeah, I mean, I haven't benchmarked them, but like for the low cost, low power GPU segment, like they sort of have the best thing, right? So, but the problem is the market for that is not that big, right? Like the market for desktop GPUs like includes AI and all these things, whereas nobody's going to try to run AI on the little Intel GPUs. Unless you could like massively scale them up and it's somehow uh, better performance per watt, but I doubt it because it's hard to parallelize that way. It's more about certification and all that paper crap. Yeah, don't TPUs exist for that purpose? I mean, there's a lot of things like AI is the hot segment, right? So there's GPUs. Some people still use CPUs, but not really. Um, there's these TPU things that they made, but then there's several other architectures that startups are experimenting with that you might consider variations of tensor cores, but really like all tensor core really means, because these things all have to be kind of flexible and stuff, right? So all tensor core really means is like we're made to load a matrix of numbers into very local, very fast memory and run a bunch of operations on that and then stream in the next piece and the next piece and then, you know, do whatever the outer ops are to math those together, right? Because, you know, it's not like, well, maybe at some point we'll refine AI enough to where like it's completely known what is the math you want to do, but you know, it keeps there's just a number of different things that you want to be able to run, right? And so it's just about doing massive numbers of floating point operations on things that have a lot of locality, right? That's as someone who doesn't do any AI software or hardware stuff, that is my impression. But like the way you could think about it, so you know, like a CPU, for example, is designed to run a very long linear program, linear-ish, right? They try to be parallel, but it's still conceptually linear. That could have a lot of data, but the data is random access, and some parts of the data are hot and some parts are not, right? And the difference is if you're going to evaluate a neural network, um, then okay, the actual code is very small, right? Like the code to run a neural network is tiny compared to, you know, anything you're used to. Um, but the data is really huge and none of it's cold, right? It's like you're cranking through all the parameters of your network all the time, right? I don't think there's any kind of like LOD systems. I mean, I'm sure people like try to do that, but I haven't heard in any of the models that are in common use right now. I haven't heard of any kind of like LOD system that's in active use, but who knows? They might be doing that. But the point being, it's just about cranking through a ton of just floating point numbers with a very small amount of code, right? It's kind of like a shader that way, but different because, reasons. You're not an AI expert from code. You've seen all it's done is multiply and add. Yeah, okay. So if you look at the math for neural networks, again, sometimes tweaky stuff happens, but basically you can think of it as like vector operations between very large vector, like a layer. If you think of a neural net, again, they could have different structures, but if you think of a classic layer structure, right, then each node there is like a bunch of weights. It has a bunch of weights of how it's connected to nodes from the previous layer, and then all the values of the nodes. And you, for each node, you say multiply the weight by the value that's been computed in the previous layer, and then add it, right? And what is that? Well, that's essentially a giant dot product operation followed by like a horizontal add across all the components, right? It's a dot product operation where the weights probably aren't changed. And if you're training, the weights change. But if you're just running it, they probably don't very much, depending. So it's like a dot product between a constant vector and an ever-changing vector, right? And that's the main math. That's like overwhelmingly almost all that you need to do, right? I mean, to oversimplify. Are the changes I'm making good enough to try the AI thing? I don't know what changes I'm making yet, and they're probably not going to be huge. Like, I want to try the AI thing. Like, if I'm adding a new feature that maybe has syntax or whatever, because I want to try saying, like, going into the parser file and saying, hey, add a thing that parses a comma separated list of identifiers in parentheses and followed by a statement or whatever. And I want to see what it does, right? But we're not doing anything like that today. Maybe. But so the whole point of what I'm doing is until I know exactly what to do on macros, I just want to play around and improve things and just fix little issues. And so we're going to look at this. I'm going to maybe remind myself why it is the way it is, or I'm going to maybe make it better and more flexible and easier to change when we go do something else. Yeah, I did some neural network stuff in college way back in the day before neural networks really worked. And that could have been a direction that I had gone in life. I was just too interested in video games. Now, some people liked both things. So there was this guy who worked on black and white named Demis who wrote a little neural network that would recognize your gestures when you cast spells in the game. And it was terrible and didn't work very well back then. But, later on he quit working for Peter Molyneux and started Google DeepMind. And then that's been tremendously successful. So good for him. I was not that interested in neural networks. And in fact, there was a bunch of weird gimmicky neural network stuff back in the 90s and 2000s. Like we've talked about this a long time ago on stream. But there was like some game with like a spider that has a neural network and you sort of try to control it. Um, and every time it dies, it like learns and whatever. It was a completely unplayable, shitty game. Does anyone remember this game? Like, like all this neural network stuff in the 90s and early 2000s was terrible. Like, you had to really love it to be in it, you know? Like, once in a while, it would kind of work. And you would be like, oh my God, right? But that's the thing is, like, some advances were made and it kept working better and better. Um, they don't quite work for games even today. I think they would. Like, the problem that you see right now is when somebody tries to use, like, neural network for games right now, it's all this, like, you know, basically sleazy stuff where they don't want to do any work and they don't want to figure anything out. They just want to take an LLM or an image generator and say, like, here's Minecraft in our image generator. It's a game. And like, no, that's not a game. But if you were to actually do a good job training AI for, like, you know, monsters in your first person shooter or something, right? Um, it would probably be really good. It's just nobody is doing that version of it. They're all doing the cheap, shitty version of it because that's how you get attention and money right now. You think the spider was called Mendel? Maybe, yeah, I don't remember. Wait, if it was called Mendel, it would have been a genetic algorithms thing, maybe, and not a neural network thing. Point being, Galapagos Mendel's Escape, yeah. Oh, this game was terrible. But I guess that means it was a genetic algorithm spider. Oh, yeah. Oh, this game was terrible. You couldn't really control the spider, and he would just keep running into stuff and dying. And then you get frustrated and quit the game is basically how it worked. As you can see, the graphics were awesome. Everything was like this crappy checkerboard. Let's see if there's a... Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's see.
In a place unseen by living eyes, in a world whose only truth is power, a new form of life was emerging. To be manufactured, a synthetic creature engineered with a model to generation combats and alone, trapped by a devastating and prolific, yet no word. Our resources were at work. Spotted at Galapagos, or not alive,
God, this... I don't remember this intro being this horrifically long. All right. I mean, this is sort of the thing, is it's like, it's doing some pathfinding or whatever. And then I guess you like click around it to try to make it go somewhere. But that's like... Oh yeah, you could click on the... I think you click on that elevator to move it when he's on the thing. But you're not like directly controlling the dude at all. Oh yeah, you're moving this thing so it doesn't kill him. Note, note the incorrect Z sorting here. That's how good 3D games were. So this beam was like, it's like being drawn underneath the polygon for this part of the surface. Good times. Yeah, the whole game is an escort mission, yeah. Maybe Streamer was just bad at game. No, everybody was bad at this game. Like, look, he's going in totally the wrong way. Ah, and then you have to like poke him in the butt to try to get him to turn around, I guess. Like, doesn't this look really fun, guys? Yeah, the camera is extremely unhelpful. Looks streamable. Yeah, if they'd had streamers back in the day, this would have been like the equivalent of Jump King because it's that frustrating. God, there was actually this is the graphics glitches are reminding me there was some other game that was published by Microsoft where you're it's essentially Starship Troopers where you're like a guy in power armor fighting bugs. And I feel it was called like Outland or something like that. But like I remember really having a lot of fun in that game. It had no AI in it. It's just the similar time frame. I remember really liking that game, and it had like horrible rendering bugs like this, where things are totally out of order. Outcast? I don't remember. No, 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 no. Or is this is a remake? No, this was like Microsoft game power armor bugs. Insects. Microsoft and bugs is going to be Fallout. It wasn't Fallout. It wasn't Earth Defense Force. It was basically Starship Troopers without the IP. But it was like 1998 or something when it came out, or like 2000. It was before GPUs. Terra Nova, no, it wasn't Terra Nova. It was like a more actiony version of Terra Nova that was more about Outwars. I think that might have been it. Yeah. This game was actually fun. I guess you could buy it on Steam now. 1998. It says publisher Ziggurat, but I remember it being Microsoft at the time, so maybe it was republished. This game was actually, I'm sure it's unplayable crap by modern standards, but this game was actually fun. For 1998. Okay. All right, nostalgia trip over. Let's actually program. Maybe we'll play. You know what? Here, let me buy that for now, and then we'll try and play it if it even runs on this machine. Just, dude, the nostalgia. It's 75% off. I'm buying it. Boom. All right, so next time we do gaming, that'll be in the library. How's Outwars doing on Steam? 17 reviews. Ouch. It was not even a really popular game in 1998. I just remember having a lot of fun with it. All right. That's going to be a good time. Where did I get it in 98? I mean, I guess I bought the CD. Like back then you would have bought the disc at like, CompUSA or whatever. Um like probably so I would get the PC Gamer magazine all the time and they would have a bunch of demos on there. And probably I played the demo and liked it and I was like, "All right, I'll buy the game." It's possible that I might have downloaded it, but that seems a little too early for that. I know that it's too early because I worked on a software rendered hover tank game around the same time, and we didn't even consider selling it online. Like, that just was not a thing. It just didn't even cross our mind that you could charge money for a game on the internet and like get people to actually pay it. Like, people did not even really do credit card payments on the internet very much at that time, unless it was something very specific, like, um, you know, like maybe PayPal was getting started around then, and like if you were buying something on eBay, but like that, like regular people did not buy things with a credit card online in 1998. When did Steam start? When you could look up when the orange box came out. Steam was available before that, but like Orange Box was when, like, you know, you had to have Steam installed. It came with Steam, and you had to have Steam installed to run like Half-Life 2 and Portal and all that. Dude, early Steam was terrible. Like, it ran in the background and ate like 15% of your CPU while you're trying to play games and stuff. It was not good. But they just kept improving it, and nobody else really tried until it was too late. All right. So backtick target scope. Like I said, we're just chilling. We're just gonna look at. We're just gonna look at this. So okay. So when we say push context in the bytecode builder, all right. So there's basically two separate things. Just from looking at this, it's only used in two places, which is good news. It's not all over the compiler. It's used once in bytecode builder. This is when we're doing defer. So you can backtick a defer, and we decide where the defer should go. And I feel like we could ignore this one for a little bit. Um, Simply because there is probably a better way to do this. Like, we could probably set this scope uh, during type checking, right? And then we wouldn't have to have any code here, right? And then this stuff is just like administrative. This stuff is just the definitions. So really, it's all just during type checking, which is, I guess, good. All right. So let's look at this. So this is confusing because some of this code gets used by other things. So find backtick target scope is being used by import backticked declaration, which I think we're going to verify this. Is there a way? So you used to very easily have multiple find tabs open in Visual Studio, and then I just stopped. Can I like add another one here? Can I like pin this and do another search? Anyone know? Um, anyway, I think this is only called when we do the for expansions, right? Top next to X. The blue bar. Top next. Oh, the blue bar. Pin. Ah! Fuck. Now everything's fucked up. Why? See, now it's like all the way across, and like all my other shit is gone. Like, what is wrong with these people? Keep results. Okay. So wait, if I do another find, now we're going to have to like go open whatever the other windows were and like drag them back in. What just happened? I didn't do anything there. Oh, it's set to like auto close. Why didn't the pin change? Like, okay, I have no idea what's what is wrong with these people? Okay. There's multiple find tabs, but I can't see. They're docked differently. Oh, is this one floating now? That's, oh God, it's fucking floating. All right, let's just, dude, I don't, all right. Press the pin. No, if I press the pin again, it'll probably like dock somewhere else that I don't want. All right. So find backtick target scope. Okay, well, I don't like that this is being called inside flatten, because flatten is supposed to be simple. So this is a thing I would like to get rid of. So let's try to understand what's going on here. Okay, so sometimes you don't want to resolve an identifier. That's fine. If we do want to resolve it, I'm pretty sure there is no due to type or flag anymore, but whatever. Okay. This is like, okay, so here's another thing. Why do we have lexical rescope and backtick target scope, right? Are those both, those are both on block, right? Yeah, so these are like two things that dork to scope. I don't think we necessarily need lexical rescope, right? Oh, this is on scope entry. Wait, hold on. It's also, it's on insert. Dude, I don't, all right, so I want to clean up all this scope stuff. So it's like eliminate lexical rescope on scope entry, question mark. But before that, we're looking at get rid of backtick target scope. And I'm going to put question marks on all these because we're not sure these are the best action, right? There's a flag here, block discards backticks, that I'm not sure why we need that. Or rename it to be more understandable. Okay, so anyway, so find backtick targets. Okay, let's go back here. So we set the enclosing scope on the identifier just so that when we start resolving it to match it to a declaration somewhere, look at this comment from 2017. So like we set it here, but since then we did some other structural things to the compiler where I think this may not be necessary now. I don't know. Okay, but anyway, if the identifier is backticked and we didn't set the backtick scope, which by the way, this is messy. This is another thing because we don't know if we set it or not. Like that kind of code. That kind of code is definitely an anti-pattern in complicated systems, right? You like want to know if it's set or not, if you could help it. All right, so here we say, okay, what scope are we in? We're going to find the backtick target scope, right? Which, what does this even do? Does this go up? Okay. I guess by discards backticks, we mean it's the target of backticks, which might be a better name for that flag. But there might also be a better way to find this without the flag, but whatever. So, oh my God. All right, so if the block was generated here, we set these. And we navigate up this hierarchy, right? Otherwise, so this, oh, fuck. I wish I could get, like, can I just highlight things, please? The fuck is wrong with you people? Like, who wants to edit code by doing this? Who has literally ever wanted that? It's the stupidest thing I ever heard. So this is what I was saying about having this alternative hierarchy that we're navigating up. I don't think we should want this, right? So the question is, let's start putting questions. Can we, because any simplification that we do is a win. Can we replace find backtick target scope by just looking at the current macro expansion and grabbing the scope that way? So back when this code was written, maybe we didn't have this like macro expansion struct that we have now. So maybe we could just use that. But that's a question that I have. All right. So why are we finding this? We want to know the statement index for some reason. Because we're setting it on the identifier. And the reason that we're doing that is because the identifier needs to have a correct statement index. So this is one of the complications, is we want to check for use before declare, right? That's a problem if you do that. And that's one of the things that used to be very wrapped up with weird implementation details of the compiler. And one day I was going crazy and I was like, I don't like this because I want to be free to refactor those implementation details and I don't want it to be so hard to think about. And so I went through and added this extra data item to everything of like what statement index it is. And it's like the super smooth brain, if you have like the bell curve meme, it's the super smooth brain way to do it, but it's also smart. Like I haven't regretted this since I did that. But like it costs memory and it's extra data and all that. So whatever. Maybe someday we'll figure out a better way to do that. But in closing scope, add infer, that's just the same thing we were setting up here. We're overriding it though. This just means, where are we going to look? Right? And here we say this identifier is backtick, but is not inside a macro. So like, yeah, we probably could detect whether we're in a macro a different way. And one way that we might do that is by just setting a breakpoint here, and we can look at the macro expansion record state. I believe, although we probably wouldn't want to look at that here, actually. I think what we would do is get rid of all of this, which is good because flatten is not supposed to be complicated. I think we would get rid of this, and at infer time, when we look up the identifier, we would do this instead. And who knows? Because, we have this weird flag. Maybe we actually do that, right? But yeah, I think moving this probably would be a good idea into identifier resolve, because I don't know. I mean, I sort of know why it's here, but I would like to get it out of here. One of my eternal regrets about this compiler is how complicated is the code that like stages expressions before they get type inference run on them. And there's two things. There's a thing called be live and there's a thing called flatten. And be live and flatten ideally would be the same code, but they're not. They're like two different passes that happen, and I don't like that. And part of the reason they're two different passes is because there's just complications happening. And if I can remove complications, it becomes easier to see how to merge them, right? Okay. Could I say more about why I care about the complexity added by the 20,000 lines of instruction tables? Because that's something that somebody has to understand and maintain and modify. Like we already get complaints that like not all the instructions are in there because Ryan skipped instructions that he didn't think were going to be important, but that actually are important still to people who are writing operating systems and stuff. And so, that's not that good. That's what you got to keep in mind. Like even right now, why don't I just go make a better version of macros? Because it's hard to understand what that is. And my process of thinking about what that is involves understanding what are the problems with how it is now. And it's complicated. So it just takes a while to even understand. For me, the person who made the programming language, like everything, all progress in software, really all software, but this compiler especially, is bottlenecked on the complexity of the existing system. All right? So anytime you add more complexity, which you're doing every day when you program, it's actually incredibly expensive because you're adding this thing that will eventually block you. All right? And then it's important in a longer living software project to figure out how to reverse that at some point, right? Like, can I get rid of this entire mass of complexity? Because if you can't do that, then you're just subject to entropy and your project will eventually die, right? Or it'll freeze. I mean, freezing in a good state, like if you like Kelvin versioning or whatever, might be a thing that you want. But if you're actually trying to keep working on it, it'll just die. Is the few thousand lines of code to do stuff with that table also really complicated, intrusive? It's more complicated than I would like. I mean, it's a whole assembler for an essentially a high-level assembly language. Like, it's not totally simple. Adding complexity is not that bad if you're willing to go back and simplify. Dude, come talk to me when you're the principal programmer on an entire C++ replacement language and all the user space code for that and a game engine and a video game written in that game engine. And you're the chief designer of the video. Like, I have a lot to do. All right? Like, you're not... If you think all this is free, if you think it's just free to have more code, you're not understanding the framework at which I'm approaching this. All right? Now, that's true regardless of the team size, but it's especially true with a very small team size. All right? Simplicity is super, super, super important. Yes. All right. So anyway, okay, so we're doing this just so we can set this enclosing scope at infer, which is not surprising. Why we're doing it here versus identifier lookup, I don't know. So maybe one small win that we could have is just to move all this to type checking, I'm not sure why we feel like we would need it outside of type checking. It might just be historical that we felt like this was the right place for it. Currently, I do not feel like it's the right place for it. In fact, what would be great is to just get rid of enclosing scope at infer, right? Because when we go to look up an identifier, we should just know what the active scope is, and we shouldn't have to store it on the syntax tree. Hopefully. There might be, again, it's complicated. There might be some reasons why we're doing that, and that's why I'm putting that in that question list. Okay. So now we set this flag, whatever. Okay, so that's the one place that we call it, and there's one other place that we call it. It looks like there's 5 calls, but this is C++, right? So this is a function prototype is what they called this in the old days. I don't know what you call it now. A declaration versus a definition, or vice versa. This is another one of the same thing. This is the other call. That's the implementation. So, all right. So this is the other call. Import backticked declaration. This is back where we started looking. So now we're trying to find for the declaration where to put a declaration. It's a different thing that we're doing here. Okay, and if we find it, well, based on what this is set to, we either don't do anything or we make like a link, an import link. I actually don't know what this case is now that I think about it. This one I understand. This one I'm like, what? So I guess it really is kind of discarding backticks. All right, so when do we call import? Is that called for everyone? No, it's called twice. All right, again, so it's called, okay, when a declaration goes live, all right, and all right, so this looks like it gets called for all kinds of scopes. If we're inserted by a macro and we're a code directive, we don't queue. That's a very tweaky implementation detail. Otherwise, we do. If we're in a data scope, that's, yeah. So, okay, here's what I'm saying about having a different way to figure out. So we have this active macro expansions array, right? And we're able to look at that here. So this basically says when a declaration goes live, poke into the target scope where it wants to go. That doesn't necessarily have to be how it works, right? We could, for example, the way that seems more appealing to me and would maybe remove all this tracking that we're talking about of this extra scope hierarchy is instead of the declaration poking itself into some target scope that's being tracked, like hopefully we can know what this macro expansion is 100% of the time. We could assert on this, and if we don't have outer, we could complain about it. We could just store the declaration on the macro expansion, and then sort of have a pull model that after the expansion is being done, expanding into a block of code, we're naturally back in that block of code and we could pull links out of there instead of pushing them from here, right? And that might be a cleaner thing to do. Anyway, that's one of the calls. Okay, hold on. Do we have do a pull model instead of pushing via import backticked declaration? I feel like the other one's going to be for loops, but let's look. Import scope modified declaration. So this is a for loop code, but down here this isn't. So like who? Okay, this always says hygienic macro, right? Okay. So like this code, oh, this is if we're gonna like double link. Wait, I don't. This is remapping the names if we came from a for loop. Did we get rid of this flag, this macro linked iterator flag? Yeah, that's been commented out. I guess I was leaving that in because I was like, oh, maybe we want to bring that back. But in general, I don't let flags live for a long time if they're no longer relevant. Do we have other tools to debug our compiler? Yeah, we have some visualizers for the syntax tree and stuff, but you know, the main thing I use to debug the compiler is just a debugger. You know? Sometimes that's hard to deal with, but most of the time it's fine. Yeah, the Dragon book is terrible. Don't even bother reading it. It's a horrible book. And there's many better sources. Can we step through the compiler compiling a macro? No. I mean, we might do that later, but like, no, you're not going to understand if I. It's really complicated. You're not going to understand anyway. All right. So, if the target identifier itself was backticked, what does this mean? If the target identifier, oh, right. So you could call a for expansion like from within a macro or from within a for another, and like, yeah. Yeah. All right. Anywho, So this is a very special case that usually doesn't happen, but we probably have some test code that does it. So what does this mean? Where do we want to start? I kind of don't mind this one. Let's put together an action plan. Can we move the stuff in flatten for ident to type checking? And then can we remove this? Let's search for that. And closing scope at infer. Oh God, there's more hits than I would like. Let's see. Report use before declare. I think we could probably don't need this here. This is in error message reporting, right? Okay. Or in, when you have like a circular dependency or something, we invoke this thing to explain what is the circular dependency. We're using it there. Okay, flatten is just setting it. And then typer, pass the buck or report invalid static dereferences. That's okay, yeah, that's a thing. But that, where does this happen from? I wish I remembered how to jump to the top. Ident infer part 2. Okay, so we actually would have the scope here if we want it. This is fine. This is fine. Unless it's not, unless we call this in a weird way sometimes, which is possible. Is this still... I wish I could fucking see where I am. This is just infer types generally. Wait. Yeah, this is just our general infer types. So if it defines a polymorph variable, this is just error checking. So again, this would be whatever actually is the current scope. You know, I feel like anything here is whatever is actually the current scope. Okay, this is a weird one. What is going on here? Oh, this is in the exists directive. Ooh, that's a different one. Okay, this is a huge hack right here. But again, I think this would just work with other stuff that we're doing. Scope cursor. Okay, this is when we go to look up the identifier, right? We say like, hey, you know, we're like, hey, man, hey. The thing that bothers me about removing this scope, now that I look at this, is these are conceptually a pair that, you know, they define where in the program the thing is. And if it might be bad to get rid of part of that pair, but at least we could only define it up here, right? I don't know. Let's see. If we're in an arguments block, like there's all sorts of these if statements could be confusing and hard to think about and go wrong. This is like why if statements are very hard. All right. But yeah, all this is just in ident inference. So if we just make a local variable for this. Let's just keep looking, right? Oh God, force infer. Force infer is something I would love to remove from the compile. I have removed some of it. Because there's no dereference operator. Okay. All right. I mean, do we push the correct scope for this? I hope so. Yeah, I would love to get rid of all this stuff. Yeah, resolve one ident. So this is all resolve one ident, probably down to here. Yeah. So these ones are in a different function. Where's this? Resolve struct dereference. Okay. This also would have the current scope. So, dude, identifier lookup in this language is it's got complications. You would think, like, how could this be difficult? Okay, that's commented out. All right. So it seems doable to me that we could try moving that thing out of flatten to infer. And again, the reason I want to do that is because then there's no real reason to store that variable, so it can't be a source of confusion, right? And then if we need it for error reporting, like, we could just store it as an output instead of like a thing that is needed over the time, right? We could store it as an output for a while. Like in a case like this, if a number of people, oh, sorry, I meant here. If a number of people use a variable and you're like, I wish I could get rid of that variable. If you can reduce the number of people who use it, then you're closer to removing it. And that's progress usually, unless one of them is intractable. But you're at least closer to figuring out if one of them is intractable. All right. I am going to get, I guess, an iced tea now. Maybe I'm too cold for an iced tea. All right, so are there any questions about specifically the code we are looking at while I grab the iced tea? Maybe I'm going to regret it, but I'm going to grab an iced tea. Questions about this specific code? Why not split this single file into multiple files? Why? Why would I do that? How would it improve the functionality of my program to do that? Did you go to one of those schools where they say that functions should not be more than 10 lines? That's really the only question I got. Oh my God. All right. No, it wouldn't. The reason it's all in one file is because this is all the primary type checking code. It's all in one place. So if I want to know where to look for something, I just look in this file. How do you deal with nested ifs? I somehow can't comprehend them mostly. I don't think about them very much. Maybe just the more reps you have programming, the easier it is. I just don't. I'm not like trying to visualize some control flow graph. It's just I know how if statements go. Is there any language feature that's on the chopping block to reduce compiler complexity? Yes, the assembly language assembler that I literally just posted about today. There's a... If you look at my Twitter, it's literally my most recent tweet talking about that. Okay. Premature optimization is the root of all evil. Like if the user of the program is experiencing slowness, it is not premature optimization. Like, do you try to optimize the memory usage of the syntax tree? I kind of try, but it's hard. And, you know, the thing is, if you have a syntax tree, you've inherently decided to be mega wasteful with memory. And that's just the model. If I were to redesign a compiler from scratch, I would try to think a lot harder about how not to have a syntax tree at all. But it's not obvious. Like there's some things that are, you know, unclear. Do you add type into info into the syntax tree? Yes. Yes. The syntax with or equal makes you nervous. Welcome to like literally every imperative language after C. Like, come on, bro, get used to it. Oh my God. If you can't get over that, you're going to have a problem. Is the macro system shipping around syntax tree nodes, or does it operate at a higher level? No, it basically clones the syntax tree nodes of the body of the macro and then inserts them into the function at the point where the macro is called. Except, of course, this being a realistic programming language, there's a lot more detail and complication than that, but that's the basic thing that's happening. Okay. I'm just going to try this, and this could like completely suck and be horrible. Okay. So this whole thing, I'm going to move it. And then literally we don't do anything in flatten for identifiers. which would be great. And then, so the problem is going to be there might be more than one place where we need to make sure this happens. But we're going to do it in the following way. Oh, you know what? When we get to ident here, I'm just going to put it in a function here. Ensure ident and closing scope is set. And this is a function we might get rid of later, right? And this is a large and in charge function. So I got to go to the top of it. All right. Well, we're somewhere above it now. All right. I don't know what the key binding is for go backwards to the start of the function. All right. So ensure ident and closing scope is set. We actually are going to want more parameters. We're going to want at least that. And okay, I think we're just going to assert this. Okay. All of this is very old. Like, okay, the problem is there might be someone setting a sneaky block and then calling flatten. It's one of the several reasons why this might work. Might not work. Did I say might work? Wow, I'm getting hungry again. Okay, so we don't have queued here, I think. Oh my God. What it... Fuck. Why? Why are you problematic? All right. Okay, we got to change one more setting. I forgot. Fucking... I got to turn this bull crap off. Stop. Stop. Okay, we don't want that, but that's not what we're here for. How do I turn off the goddamn... I guess I could try this, but I'm looking for something else. But no, false. I'm looking for something else. What's the thing that makes it switch to... Because I can change it down here, but it'll just change back next time I load the solution. Show error. Yeah, that sounds familiar. Show error. Ah! That fucking thing. Like, they should just have real programmers use this sometime and then tell them what the default settings are supposed to be. Okay, this identifier, that's easy. 8983. Ah. All right, so my expectation is that this will not work. Let's make, oh, this was our macro roadmap from the last stream. That's in a different file now, I hope. So can we compile this very simple program, which is misleading because to compile this, we need to compile like 2,000 lines worth of stuff in the preload and the runtime support. But this probably won't work, but maybe it will. Ready? Ready? Wow. Okay. Okay. Let's make sure that we're... Hey! All right. Can we import basic? That's a ton more code. Oh my God. Did this just work? We're going to call print in basic. All right. Maybe weird macro stuff will break. I just got my fingers crossed. Dude, if I had known that this might be this easy, I mean, I'm knocking on wood. I would have done this so long ago. So long ago. So long ago. Seems to be working, doesn't it? There might be some obscure macro test that fails. But no, this is great. If this works, I'm literally going to just check this in and take the W because that's major. And then we'll continue onward and like make that into an output only variable. There's one more thing. Does it compile to Sokoban? European cores. Bro. Let's run it just to have fun. Debug. Whoops. Which OS is this? This is Holy OS or whatever that is. All right, so great. Let me get a little bit more food. And then I mean, we're going to delete this. So that's great because the flattened code for ident is now tiny. Like, look at all this crap. What the hell is procedure call context modif? Oh, no, I know what that is. That's a new thing. Why did I need to put something here for that? Anyway, like this also, like I feel like this can just go into inference for the procedure call, honestly. So maybe let's make this another to-do list item for later, like go through, flatten, and move as much as possible to infer, e.g. procedure call context modification. All right, if we can get flattened back down to like basically just the original point of this is just you have a bunch of different nodes in your syntax tree and each node type has pointers at different offsets and you want to traverse those in a way that is reenterable. So you can't just do stupid recursion on the C++ stack, calling these things to put them on the stack because, well, I mean, you could. In fact, we originally did, but that doesn't give you much control over anything because if somebody hands you a very large function, you might put like 10 trillion things on the stat onto the to process list, and so this gives us a way to chunk that up. But I don't know. It is not worth talking about right now. Yeah. So again, this lexical rescope we should be able to get rid of. Like, I just want to get rid of a bunch of this stuff, a bunch of this weird scope crap that's happening. All right. So, like, literally. So let's see if we're gonna delete these comments. Yeah, this is like, I don't even know what to do with that. I had thought it would be simpler to have an ident scope only set during infer, which is what we're doing now. We needed to disambiguate which scope an identifier is in, which meant carrying the scope in some other way anyway, e.g. in the queued, which we do. And this began to seem messy and redundant and weird. On the other hand, if we require the scope always be set before infer, if we don't have a scope, we set it to the flattened block, but if an identifier was created by the parser, we expect to have a scope already. Okay. Yeah, we're just gonna, I don't even know how accurate that is anymore. So, who else, does anyone else set this? The reason I put add infer, so that's the code we literally just put, right? These three are all from the code we literally just put. And then here, we're like filling this out. I'm not sure we need this anymore. Okay, before we just take the W. Bytecode builder. So this is an output value, basically. So it's really maybe just this one. But like we have resolved scope entry. Yeah, this is a weird hard-coded identifier loop that I think it's fine to set it here. This is also effectively an output value. All right. So I think we take the W on that. While I go to the fridge, I'm going to run some tests again. But we might even stop them before they finish. We're just verifying I didn't really clumsily break something. All right. We got little pepperoni and cheese snacks. Oh, it finished. All right. So we're going to check this in. Small W of identifier scope cleanup. That's great. You know, that, like I said, I wasn't going to put any pressure on myself tonight. If I didn't do anything in terms of forward progress, I would have been happy with that. So this is gravy. Okay, so now our goal is just to factor. Okay, we have multiple possible goals. One goal is just turn this into an output field that we don't use in type checking anymore, but just gets used for error reporting and whatever. And then later, if we want to deprecate that from error reporting, we could treat that as a separate issue. So maybe we do that. Or maybe we say, let's just simplify this and like try to get rid of this lexical rescope, like what's going on there. And I think I like the first thing I said better. So like we could make it so that we return a scope from here. And then we actually set it in the caller. Okay, the problem is we can't just return here because we overwrite down here. Okay. Oh, the problem is, see, this is very ugly. Because like I said, this statement index only has meaning relative to the scope. Let's not worry about this yet. We'll just go to the calling site. And for now, we're just going to put this into a local variable. And then instead of reading off the identifier the whole time, we put it into a local variable. And maybe we'll do that with the statement index also. Unclear. All right. So if we report an error, you know, that's fine. We're just double checking that we got something. Okay. And then this is sort of, this code is just like a reentrant thing where the first pass, this will be null. But we might yield and stuff, like this code is full of yields, so we might come back later and do it and whatever. Okay, so this variable in closing is now going to be I mean, okay. And then down here, does someone else call this? So I'm sure. Ident infer. Let's use the full search over here. Ident infer part 2. Okay, so yeah, we only have 2 callers here. This is, I think, the one that we were just looking at. And no, wait, this is binary operator. This is the one we were just looking at. So we could just pass the enclosing scope here instead of recomputing it in there. But then we would need to get the scope here. And well, let's see why we even want it in there, because maybe we don't want it. It seems like if you're supposed to have a resolved scope entry before you get in there, why do we want this? Wait, not resolve scope entry, the enclosing scope. Enclosing scope at infer. Okay, this is that same lambda thing we were looking at. That's in part 2. Okay, so this is kind of weird. This is an error check only. We're not doing productive work here. We're checking a thing. So that's one reason we want it. This is our code there. That's our code there. This is that output setting. This is when we're looking it up. Okay, so when we call resolve one ident, you know, we want these things. Obviously. Is this all? Yeah. So we're just gonna like streamline these down to a local variable, which maybe we'll pass in. You know, maybe not. Maybe it's not that important to do this, but we'll see. And we're making our searches a little bit more informative because we're like, what are all the contact points where we actually read this and need it to be pre-initialized, right? And now it's like, okay, this is still resolve one ident. Also, it's just makes the code a little more readable. All right. Attempt to use a value inside its own declaration, error message. Okay. Does that compile? auto differs. This means it's redeclared, right? That's, I only know that because C++, I've had that problem a lot of times in C++. It's a totally nonsensical error message. But if you've had it a few times, you know that it's actually a redeclared variable. But when you use auto, it confuses it. Okay. Here we go. We didn't really change anything significant. So I would expect this to work, but we're just being careful because, you know, if we break something, we want to know as soon as it happens rather than being confused for a long time. Okay, so that's our initialization code. This is just reading it back right after our initialization code, so we could have returned it from there, right? And then yeah, so this we're saying is purely output variables. This, yeah, this is also purely output variable. All right. I think. This is not. This is in code. I think we could substitute this. This will be our one significant thing because I think we could just say get current block here because we didn't have the concept of a current block before, like current scope. The word block here kind of means scope in this compiler, mostly. Yeah, resolve struct dereference. So we could try, assuming all this works. Great. So all right, we're just going to do that. Whoops. Current block. I literally typed current block. The AI wouldn't have done that. All right. We're just going to run all these tests again. But again, assuming this is successful, it removes a dependency on that element. Now, the reason I'm being so careful in snail crawling this is because I've spent many days being confused about weird problems to do with like scopes being confusing. So that's why, like, every inch of ground that we win here is like, it's like World War I, man. I just saw such a bad movie, dude. I saw the Kingman 3 movie last night because I'm having action movie Christmas. That's such a pointless bad movie, dude. Oh my God. Okay. For action movie Christmas tonight, should I watch Sicario 2 or Extraction 2? Sekiro 2. I saw Sicario 1 last night. So do I watch Sicario 2 or Extraction 2? Sicario 2 is so much better than the first. So Extraction 1, I kind of wanted to like it. And then they copied the shotgun reload thing straight out of John Wick 2, and I lost all respect for the movie right there. I was like, you guys are literally going to do that? You realize that 100% of the people who are going to watch Extraction have seen John Wick 2, right? Like 100% of your audience knows what you just did. You have watched Extraction and not John Wick anything? I don't believe you. That's a lie. That's a lie. Sicario 2 is a wild choice for a Christmas movie. I'm trying to catch up on the movies that I haven't seen, you know. Benicio is one of the best actors of all time, but Sicario is mid. I mean, Sicario is not a good action movie. But that wasn't the point. It's not like Sicario is supposed to be John Wick. Oh, hey man, how's it going? Speaking of John Wick, Lucas, since you're here, you can help me with this because I believe you guys still do holsters. Don't laugh. Don't judge. It's Christmas. It's Christmas Eve. But my actual favorite pistol out of the 3 that I have shot is the Terran Tactical Sandviper. And the reason I say don't laugh is because it's kind of a stupid gun. And the reason it's a stupid gun is because there's no backup irons. And like, how hard is it to put backup irons on a pistol, right? But they made this, I guess because they wanted to differentiate it from the Pit Viper, or they just didn't care. I don't know. But if you don't have backup irons, it can't be your take it to the apocalypse pistol, right? It just can't. So it's relegated to being a stupid gun. But like, I just like it so much more than anything else. It just feels so much better. So like, what do I get from you guys that'll fit a Sandviper is my question. Because I only have like generic crappy, you know, shipped from China, Amazon.com holster for it. So like, you know, it's a full size 2011, I guess, with an SRO on it. It's possible to fit staccato holsters. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly the thing. Like, holsters is just this thing where if you don't have a very popular pistol, like I've talked to people in like 3 different gun stores and they're like, I don't know what'll fit your thing or if we have it or not. And I'm like, what? How do you not know? So, yeah, that's why I've never gotten a real holster for it. .2011s are finicky. Yeah. Anyway, just want a range holster. I mean, you know, a zombie apocalypse holster would be better, but I mean, I don't need like a holster that will pass some kind of regulation for me wearing it on duty as anything. Like, I don't need that, obviously, but you know, like, if I could do a roll and it won't fall out, that would be great. Do I want to conceal it? No. I mean, here's the thing is I've never really gotten anything conceal size, right? Like I was thinking maybe a staccato C2 or something or whatever the model. They keep changing their names for all their things. but like something like that. But I don't. I don't think I would try to conceal that, but it's also my favorite. So I don't know, man. Yeah, I've got the flared magwell on it, right? Like it's not set up for concealment. Just send you an outside waistband holster for a staccato, and I can tell you if it fits. Sure. I mean, I'll just order one. Like I can do that, and we'll just see. If you think it has a reasonable probability of working, I'm totally fine doing that. It's just I don't know. All right, we'll see how it goes. That'll be one of my Christmas presents. All right, so the other question, since it seems like you just dropped in, is what if I'm having action movie Christmas and I'm just watching a lot of action movies? What should I watch? The Accountant was good. Oh, I don't know. Ronin. Did I see Ronin? I feel like I saw that. Wait, that's pretty old, right? Yeah. I feel like I saw that a really long time ago, but I probably didn't appreciate it at the time. So I would be down for a rewatch. What about Drive? I never saw that. Do I want serious action movie or funny action movie? I mean, there aren't very many funny action movies where the action is actually good, is the problem, right? Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Dude, I grew up in the 80s. I have seen Die Hard so many times. I've probably seen it like 19 times. I mean, it's been a really long time, but Edge of Tomorrow, Matrix 4. I uh I used to live in San Francisco, and the cafe where they filmed those scenes in Matrix 4 is right downtown. And it's very obvious, but yeah, no, Matrix 4, not a good movie. Drive or Sicario 2. All right, well, I'll probably do Sicario 2. Edge of Tomorrow is good. No, because Edge of Tomorrow does not make any sense in like 17 different ways. So, uh, it just like yeah, as just a goofy movie, it's fine. But like you can't consider it like a super good movie. Dread. I saw Dread a couple times. I mean, that was a weird thing where both Dread and The Raid were basically the same movie concept, right? Of going up this giant building. And they came out at about the same time. I mean, between those two, I think The Raid is the much better movie. But Dread was fine. When you order that holster, I think you want to pick the Staccato XC. Okay. We'll advertise to my streaming audience. Oh, look. Here's what I get when I search that. Running and gunning with the Staccato XC. Holsters for Staccato XC. I mean, so for the sidecar, like how long of a magazine can you comfortably put? Does it go like below this point and is strapped in somehow, or is it like because I got some pretty long magazines. Um, Reposition the mag carrier lower if you want. Yeah, okay. Okay. Well, maybe I'll get this. I'll get the deluxe and we'll just see how it fits. And then I'll let you know. I'll probably like whisper you on Twitch here and let you know if it fit. And you'll have that information for anyone For the 0 future people who will ever ask you if a Sand Viper fits in your holster, because I guess just because it's so expensive, not very many people buy it, right? But it's so good, dude. It's such a good pistol. Oh my god. I mean, not like I'm an expert or anything, but it's so much better. Like I have other bougie pistols and it's way better than them. It's crazy. Yeah, there's some movies I just don't want to do. So I thought about watching Sisu because it's a good concept, but then I was like, I don't want to watch something super gory. I don't get off on that, you know? And that's what I've heard about that movie is it's just super gory. So Tenet, I didn't like Tenet. You got to I mean, I made a game about time manipulation. I'm picky about that stuff. And Tenet also doesn't make sense. All right, let's try to do some more programming. Let me drag this. We're going to reduce our number of windows by dragging that over. Okay. So, we were running tests and we were waiting for those to complete. So that all ran. And does the game compile? Sure seems like it. All right, well, as silly as this feels, we're going to take the W for that. It's only a small simplification, but like I said, it's like we're crawling foot by foot here. All right, you can't see this, but I'm checking in. I'm saying small simplification on identifier lookup. So the question is the next step, do we try to make it fully, so we have on, let's go look at the thing, asked ident, right? We have this enclosing scope at infer. And relatively few sites in the program are using this anymore, right? Oh, hold on. Wait, I thought we got rid of all these. Oh, it just looks like a lot, but it's really the same. So like I said, when we report circular dependencies, we use it. And the reason we use it there is because the identifier obviously didn't get resolved if we're trying to resolve or trying to report why it didn't get resolved, right? So now instead of using this, it's possible that we could just call that same function to know what the scope is, right? Rather than, but here, okay, so here's the thing. When we find scope entry, we initialize the place where we start by reading this, right? But it's only read in this case of trying to report an error message when compilation is not correct. And so that's, and so that's all 4 of these uses here. And so we could probably just call that same function again. And honestly, that function probably should return the scope and the statement index. We need to go back and look if it doesn't set the statement index in the non-macro case. Why is that? Does somebody else set it? Or like what's going... See, these little complexities can like work their way into the program and just, make things very hard to understand. And so we want to just... It's like gardening, right? There's just so many little things, so many little weeds to pull and whatever. But you gotta, if you don't do it, man, it gets rough eventually. Okay, so all these again are just this function that we wrote. And we probably could assert here, this could be another thing, is that we assert, Oh, actually, no, because like we said, we'll end up in here more than once. But actually, one thing we could try to do is just say if it's set, return, because we actually, like I said, that ident infer thing is reentrant. We come through there multiple times. And that means we end up running this code multiple times invisibly, which I'm not thrilled about. So we really only want this running once. So I think that's going to be my next step. But then looking down here, this is, again, reading it right after we come out. And then, you know, this is setting these output values for error reporting. I say so that bytecode builder can use it, but bytecode builder doesn't even use it. So that's old. And then this is old. We're just going to delete this. So that we don't get a false positive on the searches. All right. It still looks like a lot of hits, but it's not really that much. And if we change it, we could change the variable to some name like output only, blah, blah, blah. And then we can one by one convert them and make sure it's simplified. Yeah. All right. So my mind was wandering there for a second, but I was thinking about the pistol thing again. Okay. We don't want to run this multiple times. So I just want to try this. There might be some weird reason why this is not correct, which is again why I'm just creeping and running all the tests every time because this has been such a painful area. But if this passes, then we can delete this, right? This block can go here, and then we know that we're not running this more than once, and that might lead to how we handle, you know, factoring this out or deleting it or whatever, right? All right, so that compiled, which is a good sign. This is, again, it's by far the most complicated program. Although we do have in the test suite, we have stuff that does really weird things with macros again and whatever. I love how for every movie now you have to be like, where do I stream this? And it's like Amazon or Apple TV for $4 or whatever. I mean, I guess it's good that they do this on Google now because literally everyone wants to know that information. I guess since it's on Amazon, in theory, we could do a watch party, but like, dude, Sicario 1 was a rough movie. I don't know if I want to do a watch party of 2. Ugh. Ugh. All right, so this has seemingly passed, unless something went by that I didn't notice. All right, so we're going to go back there. These are very minor incremental changes. But again, sometimes it's what I do. All right, so boom. This assertion is not really useful because this will assert on us. Right? So like, so now there's this question of like, what the hell is lexical rescope, right? And can we simplify that out? But this is nice because we know this is only happening once. So now here's this question about the statement index. We are not setting the statement index here. In this case, when it's not backticked in a macro. Does that mean it never gets set? Does it mean it gets set in flatten? And we only need to like reset it? Let's look in flatten to see if there's statement index for identifier lookup. Okay, literally this block does nothing. Okay, hold on. I just started to space out again. So that's an argument. That's not setting anything. That's not setting anything. But it is sort of saying that we expect it to already be set before we get here. So maybe BLive sets it. BLive in the beehive. So here we're setting it, right? That was a thing that we were looking at. And that was a thing that I was saying could go somewhere else. Yeah, so BLive, okay, there we're setting it on some specialized things. Setting it on declarations. Enum has gone live. So sometimes we create things implicitly and then we initialize it, right? But I'm looking for, where do we set it for things? Make data scope we be, okay. So we set it on literally every statement. I mean, yeah. The way that I'm doing the statement index tracking might be excessive. And we might go to a more streamlined way of doing that eventually where it's not stored on all the nodes, because I don't think it has to be. But for now, I'm not going to rat hole and worry about that. Okay, so implicitly cast a code. That's a special case thing. Yeah, so like everybody who really sets this, well, I was going to say everyone who really sets it is in BLive. There's some other stuff here. There's interp. But this is, again, this is stuff that's getting dynamically created. Polymorph is when we copy stuff. Oh, yeah. Okay, again, though, this is dynamically created stuff. Well, that's not, but I would like to streamline the statement index stuff. There's too much of it, but not now. Not now. Okay. So how do we decide what to do next? So one thing we could do is, again, I could rename that enclosing scope thing as an output parameter. But honestly, maybe I don't care right now. It's called enclosing scope at infer. We set it during infer. Do I care that much yet about the memory from the field? No, but I'll make a note. You know, that's what we'll do. We'll make a note for future reference. As of December 2024, maybe we can remove this to save memory, we can just read this into, we can just compute this every time we go into infer and infer of ident, and when we go use it later in explain, the only place we use it, we could call, let me put, what's the name of the function that we did? Ensure ident and closing scope is set. We could instead of calling once and storing the result, we could call the same function looks like nothing is stopping us from doing that. Okay, so that's fine. So the reason I'm just not going to do that right now is because I'm not worried about that anymore. Like that's a little bit of complexity, but it's not that much. And I'd rather divert back toward getting into the heart of the macro system and like figuring out what to do. So find backtick target scope. That's sort of our next thing that we can look at. This is a thing that I would like to get rid of, because then we could get rid of that backtick target scope member on the scope struct, which is really what I don't like. All right, so here's find backtick target scope. So again, it's being called in import backticked declaration. That's one place, and the other place is in ensure ident and closing scope is set, which is the thing that we literally just modified. So if we can get rid of at least one of these, that's still a win, right? And by get rid of, I simply mean, we still want the functionality for now. We might later, like I said, move it to a pull model instead of a push model. But prior to doing that, we just want to get rid of this backtick tracking, because we would like to get that complexity out of the compiler. Because if we go to a pull model, it might be hard to think about and might not work without several design iterations and stuff. And so I'm trying to take small wins because I'm in territory that's historically been difficult. So when we do this, I could just make a new version of this function, right, that just tries to I'm going to put no check-in in the name so that we don't forget to clean this up and stuff. Or, maybe we'll take it out and have two for a little bit, but who knows. So, yes. So find backtick target scope. We're going to put this up here. New, no check-in. Maybe we'll reorder the things. All right. So we want to... Now, this whole discards backticks thing, I'm confused by that, but okay. Also, this num backticks thing doesn't have to be preserved because we actually only let you have one backtick right now, and we're probably going to get rid of backticks, honestly. Or I don't think we're ever going to have a multiple backtick model. So that's worth keeping in mind when we're doing this. Any chance I can show how you structure projects with multiple languages? Don't. If you can avoid it, don't use multiple languages. It's just a bunch of annoying coordination overhead that you don't need. Don't do it. To the greatest extent possible, just use one language. I might want to go out tonight. But I've got another hour before that. So here we go. Okay, so this already we're meeting a couple of pieces of complexity that I would like to delete. Like I said, this discards backticks. I think also means it's a backtick destination, right? But it's confusing. So who even sets this, right? Go see Craven? No, I'm not going to go see Craven. God, no. Wait, I didn't fully type this. Or it got deleted, I don't know. Okay, so where does this get set? Literally only one place. In a for loop. So we could get rid of the flag because we have a way of asking if a block belongs to a for loop. Anyway, so here, we're actually generating the call to the macro that replaces the for loop here. And then we're setting this flag discards backticks on our block. I don't know what the discard part means, but basically, okay, if we can get the current macro expansion, so this call, this is a procedure call. When we infer it, which is what local push does, it says push this onto the stack of things to go infer. When we go infer that, we will we'll push a macro expansion onto this active macro expansions array that, I don't know, like an hour ago sort of blasted through our code visibility. So we can, in theory, when we get to our new function, we could just check that. All right. So here's what I'm going to want to do, though. I don't know if we'll even get there in our tiny program, because I don't know if we use any macros, but we can compile Sokoban if we want. But we're going to go just break in our new function and just look at the state. All these tabs and wait. Okay, great. So this thing, we're just going to break here. And do we hit here at all? Yeah, we do. All right. Where is this? $31. How are we loading 31 frickin' files? Oh, wait. This loads basic now, right? Yeah, okay. So maybe, all right. No, dude, this is the preload. Okay. Why are we loading so much stuff? And I guess the answer is because we're loading basic for the default meta program. Just got to make the compiler fast is all I'm thinking. All right, so this is stupid. This is what I have to do right now to figure out what the file name is. Dot. It's first bucket. Yeah. Dot first bucket data. Sub 31. It is. Oh, check bindings Unix. What? Why are we loading bindings Unix? What is that? Bindings. Check bindings. Default meta program is loading the... Okay, we're going to put that on our things to look at. Like, what? What is this? And why are we loading this if we're not... This is 700 lines. Oh, this is... Okay. So this is checking name mangling to see if it's correct, I guess. All right. Yeah, I would love to not really load that every time. So again, our identifier, all we're trying to do is find what identifier. It's line 232. Okay. So it's this guy. It's this backticked stir. So this is in a macro just because it just enables us to refer to local variables in this function, except I don't see it being used. There it is. It's literally used one time. So that, all this could just be down there. I guess it was intended to be used more, but you know what? It's a test of macros right now. So, okay, the other ironic thing is he doesn't need these backticks here at all. These backticks are not necessary because it's defined in the scope. So you could get rid of them. Actually, the return needs to be backticked, but that's actually a different thing than when you backtick. So these identifier backticks are not even necessary. However, it's fine. All right, so I just wanted to make sure that I knew what was going on. So we're here. We just copied that old function. We haven't even changed it yet. So let's look here, queued. We're doing the body of a procedure. And there's a ton of stuff on here. So I'd love to delete a lot of this stuff. Active macro expansions right there. There is our one macro expansion, right? So if you expand a macro inside a macro, this could get more things pushed onto it, right? But there's only one, like Highlander. So, oh, by the way, in terms of action movie Christmas, I watched something. What did I even watch? Oh, I watched Beekeeper, which was hilarious because it's kind of a meme with my friends, and I finally wanted to watch it. And then Amazon was like, "Here's some suggestions for you," and it suggested some movie called like The Infinites or whatever. I think they made it because The Eternals was coming out, and they thought that was going to be a big movie, and they were like, "Let's make something that sounds like The Eternals that people will get confused and watch." And it stars Mark Wahlberg playing a 25-year-old or something. Like they don't say that, but you can tell the character's supposed to be like 25. Was it made by Asylum? No, it was way too high budget to be Asylum, but it seemed like that same concept. But it's kind of a Highlander wannabe film, like it feels like that, and it's terrible. Okay. That's all I wanted to say there. Okay. And like it's not only Marky Mark, but he's doing all these voiceovers, which is often a sign of a really bad movie when they just have like lots of monologue voiceovers. And he literally just sounds like "say hi to your mother for me" like the whole time. It's crazy. All right. It's something about reincarnation. Yeah. Yeah. Is Highlander itself not memed on? So back when I was in college, I don't know how it holds up, but back when I was in college, everyone thought Highlander 1 was a pretty good movie. And then everything went like 2 was beyond awful, and then I don't know if they made more, and then the series was not good, but the original movie was like kind of a good movie is what I recall. But I these days I might not think much of it. I don't know. What is my favorite movie? Mulholland Drive. Okay. I mean, it's a very generic movie in that there's a bad guy and you gotta like beat the bad guy or whatever, right? But I don't know. I mean, compared to movies of the past 10 years, almost everything from the past is a masterpiece. So what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Okay. Good Queen soundtrack. I mean, I don't remember the Highlander 1 soundtrack. Every time I think Queen soundtrack, I think of Flash Gordon, which, you know, is what it is. It's classic, but it's also like it is what it is. Children of Men, that's a Christmas movie, yeah. Highlander 1 didn't age well. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen it since the 90s, probably, so, you know. Okay. Maybe I won't go out tonight because I still have a bit of a dance injury that I'm working off. I don't know. Okay. Procedure call. Okay, whatever. So the macro expansion list. I guess it's a pointer. Let's look at what this is. Because I thought it was expansion records. Oh, it's in, it's on queued. It's in it. Looking in the wrong file. Okay, here we go. Active macro expansions. So this is another thing I started doing is like I'm tracking all this stuff. These all used to be implicit and you used to have to like search through data structures. And it was, again, it was entangling high level operations with low level implementation details in a way that I really didn't like. And that's why I started doing this stuff. So active macro expansions, that's just an array of procedure calls. So I guess on the call, let's look at how someone else uses it. Active macro expansions. Well, that's BeeLive. BeeLive in the Beehive. So here we're searching through them. Oh, for when we return. And it's not backticked. Okay, we're just setting the right macro expansion. So we're looking, so macro expansion record is on the call. So that should be easy to find here, right? Where was our call? Yeah, oh, the call is this. So there's macro expansion record on the call. And this just sort of tells us some information about what nodes we cloned. This is for error reporting, basically. So we can ask if something is inside a macro expansion. That's how we do it. Is like, is its serial number greater than this and less than this? So we have a link back to the call that we just saw. Next, there's just a linked list of macro expansion. We don't care about this. And we get the block, which I believe this is the target scope of the macro expansion, right? Calling it block is a little bit not great. Like that probably needs a better name. But this is line 231, right? Oh, maybe it's the block that the top level that we created. What's the parent? Is this 230? Line 230, yeah. Okay, so block here is the enclosing block of the macro expansion. Okay, let's do that. Let's just make a note, right? Macro expansion record block needs a much longer, more explanatory name. Okay, so if we want to get the target scope, we should just be able to check the parent of that, right? Of the like the backtick target scope, right? So that's this guy. That's this 1CEA-OD38. Everybody remember that number. All right. So now when we're back here, it's a different number. Okay, but let's figure out if there's a relationship between these. Okay, so hold on. This is the top level block from the macro expansion record, right? Oh, that might be it. And then block back to target scope. No, they're different. I just remembered the 2E. All right, so this parent is the top level block of the procedure, because above this is arguments and all that. So I feel like this should be the backtick target scope. So the question is, why isn't it? What the hell is this scope then? This is line 369. Oh, never mind. Yeah. Okay. So, right, because we're using the macro down here. So obviously it's this scope, because that's what encloses this call to the macro. So so does this mean that the macro expansion record does not have this? And the answer is no, I don't think so. It probably has it in some way. And if not, we could probably figure it out. But like, so this call has an enclosing. Oh, is this it? It's the call enclosing scope, right? So this is 2E48A4AO, right? This is 2E48A4AO. Yeah. Okay. So those are the same in this case. The question is, are they the same always? And the answer is, I don't know, but we can validate that idea in the following way. If we need a backtick target scope, we can do the following thing. Now, we're going to check this inside here, but the idea is we could get rid of this completely and just use this, right? All right, so we're going to go auto call is queued macro active macro expansions dot peak, right? And that'll assert if there's no call. So we'll crash if somehow we get here and we're not in a macro expansion, which actually can happen if we report an error. So actually, we're going to want to do some, okay, so first we'll just check for when there are active macro expansions. And then we'll just check that if there aren't, it's in that error case, right? I guess we check that in the caller of this. I don't know. Anyway, so here we go. Queued macro expansions.peak. So we'll assert that's not null. We're going to assert that it's equal to this backtick target scope. Oh, god damn. Dude, we have a modified buffer. Why is Emacs the way that it is? All right, so we're just back there. We're there. I hope we didn't make some other change. Now, we'll just see if that assertion holds for all our tests, right? It probably will, but to be honest, this is a little loosey-goosey just because these things are loosey-goosey, and that's what we're trying to fix and get rid of, right? So we'll see. How's it going, everybody? I'm going to get some water again. Are there any questions about what we're doing by somebody who's been here long enough to not ask, what are you doing? Hey, those passed. Let's do the game. Okay. That's great. So here's the thing. I believe what this means is we don't need any of this. Let's do a slightly more advanced version of this, because this is like a whole looping, like search through the blocks thing, right? Like that kind of sucks, doesn't it? So we'd rather replace it with this. So let's do the following thing. We're just going to do this at the top. We're going to go asked block the answer we want, right? And then the answer. And we're going to assert here anytime we return, which is only a couple times, assert the answer we want is equal to block. Now, this isn't quite right, because if we were allowing multiple backticks, we're not handling that here. We would have to go multiple times up in the macro expansions, but that would also be easy. But like I said, I think we're going to phase out backticks. I'm not sure. But the point being, there, and then here, we should assert that it's null if we're going to return null. Now, there's this whole statement index pointer thing. I don't know why we're updating it as we navigate. That's weird, but we'll take a look at that. But in terms of the actual block, does it match? Will it blend? No. Wait. Did I not compile, guys? Did I not compile last time and we ran all those tests? Or what's going on? Hold on. Or okay, no. This assertion doesn't make sense anymore, right? Because that assertion was for down here after we iterated through blocks, right? So, yeah, no, that's fine. That was just, we were insufficiently critical when moving that code. All right, and we're just going to run the tests again. We're taking slow steps. This is not high productivity in the short-term programming that we're doing right now. But it is high productivity in the long-term programming, because we are going through painstaking methods of simplifying and removing complexity from this very complex system that has caused us misery before, right? And so anytime we can do that, we buy ourselves more real estate out on the edge of the curve of high complexity. That's what we're doing. We're deleting complexity now so that we have more of a budget to add some back later. Or like complexity is like mass, right? The less mass that you have, the faster you can accelerate and change direction. And so even though we're doing this slow, painstaking thing right now, it is in the service of having a really good piece of software, really. All right, so those worked, right? And so what that means is we can just say return the answer we want or return null. And all the rest of this doesn't do anything, which means A, we got rid of, if these tests pass again, we got rid of one of our two uses of block discards backticks, which is great. And B, we got rid of one of our two uses of what am I thinking of? Oh, just backtick target scope. That's what I was pointing right at it, of this. And this is what we're trying to delete from the program. So this is great. Now the thing is, this is a little too aggressive, what I just did, because we're not doing this stuff, right? So let's do this. And we'll probably rename this from the answer we want in a little bit, right? Rename, and we'll put a no check in here to remove this. So our caller wants this information. Wow. Okay. So I didn't realize that blocks also have this frickin' member on them, which we would like to delete. So let's just put that on the to-do list. God. This is going to be like several days of stuff. Okay. So we're doing these. Anything else that we do in here? I don't think so. Let's find out how bad I messed. Oh no, lowercase null is not allowed. Lowercase null is not allowed. Oh no. Okay. So 89.95. So we're calling this and then coming back and we're saying statement index is not set. Is that in the null case? That's confusing because it might be an assert that is a little bit faulty in that it doesn't need to go off if we return null, right? So let's see. If target scope. Oh. Okay. Let's just do this again. This is an old chestnut. If statement we're just going to paste this again, right? This is a magical trick. Like if this doesn't modify state that'll change your traversal, then this is a good. So you're like, what happened? You know, if you have like time travel debugging or whatever, you could step backwards. But if you don't have that, you just do this and then you just do it again. All right. So that's the answer we want. Oh, wait, we're just not setting the statement index at all. Wait, we are. Statement index pointer. Okay. So I am not sure. This almost looks to me like we were generating a bad answer anyway. There's no comment here about why. Oh, but the call has a statement index, right? Uh-huh. So we use that. All right, so I'm going to say index. Whoops. Because we're going to say index equals if index, let's say less than 0, index equals call statement index for identifier lookup. Now, this looks like weird complexity, but this might not be doing anything anymore. Like, it's maybe the only reason we needed this was because we were doing this loop thing that we're getting rid of. Let's, in fact, in order to show that we're getting rid of looping, I just had this extra scope. Let's just get rid of that. All right. So that didn't make sense anymore. So here we're just going to say cleanup. Does this do anything anymore? Or was it just to help us find call statement index? It probably was just a different way of getting to the same statement index that the call has, but I'm not sure. Like I said, these things are confusing and hard to think about. Did you guys just see my display flicker right there? Like, what the hell happened there? All right. Someone said mini F. So maybe that happened during the mini F. Mini F. All right. So that appears to have passed, and that's great. So regardless of other aspects of this simplification, which we will of course continue, we got rid of like a whole like looping searching thing and replaced it by like just look at the top item in this array and use it. And that's great. Let's make sure the game still runs. And we'll go to a good looking level again. We'll go to the same good looking levels we showed last time. Because like, I'm sure the art team has been working on other levels, but I don't know what they are. Actually, we could see if there's any new ones in this set that someone's checked in. All right. Just, you know, you don't want to see the rectangle rivers when we could see better levels. So we're just celebrating. Like, this is crazy, right? Very few developers in history have been in control of their, like, literally what we just compiled and ran is not only being affected by the changes we made now, right? But we're in control. That was our back end even. That wasn't LLVM that we're running right now. So we are in control of everything that's running in this game down to the machine instruction level, which is fucking insane, right? Like, very few game developers in history have done such a thing. So that's great. Okay. So, you know, we know this is still sort of one of our favorite level candidates. There's a lot of other levels that look good. I should make a list of all the best looking levels. But yeah, we remember this one, of course. Debug mode has its own lowering. If you use the x64 backend, it's not exactly that it's debug mode. It's that you pass -x64 on the command line. You get the x64 backend. It's not an optimizing backend, but it does generate running 64-bit Intel code. This one looks nice. This one looks great. This is actually a good level that Patrick made recently. All right, these are some snowies. Uh-oh. Okay, that's in water rendering stuff that we are working on. It's probably my fault. This is like literally the code that I was changing recently. So that's not caused by anything we're doing on the compiler. It also, I haven't updated Sokoban, so this might be a thing that I fixed already. 925. Buffers.flow data. Yeah, that's my fault. All right, well, I'm going to have to flip through there and fix that at some point. Have I tried any first-person camera? No, this is not that kind of a game. All right, so let's take this W, guys. This is great. I'm gonna do this instead of no check-inning it because I want to check in. I'm just gonna say put on the to-do list. With original version. It's like, I think we could use this same code. Because remember, we started this by copying this other thing, right? I think we can use the same code for both. But I'm not completely sure. So we're just going to take the W on this and then try it. Okay, so this was our debug thing. We don't need that. And then this is new temporary now. All right. So now we just have our rename here. This can go inside. And we're going to call the answer we want. We're just going to call that target. Okay. That was our rename. So we still have some more, because like as you start attacking complexity, it lets you attack other complexity, right? So we simplified that. We still have to go do the other one, but after we do that, then we can look at this. But it's like playing asteroids where you break it into smaller and smaller asteroids, right? This is a much more of a minor issue, I hope, than the other thing, and it lets us get rid of that variable when we do it. Did I? Yeah, let's put this in this list. So we decided not to do that. We did that successfully. Remove backtick target scope or take the next step necessary in doing so. Okay, so we've got these other notes, but okay, that was this really. And then these. Okay, so this is sort of our what we've got going on. All right, so let's check this in. We're going to take the W. Simplifying backtick target scope stuff. All right. It's a cornholio-like. Okay, so now what? what do we want to do? We want to look at the old find backtick target scope. So again, we can do a search. We'll see our new thing somewhere. So this is a forward declaration. That doesn't really count as anything. We'll delete that when we're done. This is our new one. That's another forward declaration. Oh, they're in different files. I was like, why do we have two in the same file? They're in different files. But this one doesn't need to be here because nobody calls it anymore. So we're going to delete that. Dude, I wish it wouldn't delete my search. I guess I could do the drop down, but that's painful too. All right, forward declaration. This is the old call in import backtick declaration. And then this is our new one. And then that's the implementation. So I think what we do is in import backtick declaration, I think we just try to call our new temporary. Is there any reason? So we're still using this discards backticks here, so we won't have been able to get rid of that, but we'll be able to get rid of this other function. So let's try this. New temporary. How's that going to go? Oh, it doesn't take four. Oh, because we need the queued, right? Hope that's the right queued. Didn't work. All right. So they're not getting to the right place. All right. Well, here's a new, you know, if you're a new programmer, you don't necessarily know these tricks, right? All right. So let's go to a real editor here. So here's what we're going to do. This is our old code that works. We're going to do target scope 2 is our new temporary version, right? And if target scope not equal to target scope 2, then, well, we could at least call this, right? And we're going to put our breakpoint there. So we can step through this and see why. But, you know, also we might really want to step through this, actually. So, yeah. And just see in what case that happens, right? This is a good trick. We're like differentially debugging. Right? We have the old version, we have the new version, and we're like, why are they different? That's all. Okay, we don't want that. Okay, they're not different here. So we need to build Sokoban. It's nice that we can at least compile simple programs without that dying, but simple programs might not have iterator substitution. All right, what is going on? Wait, did we not? What? Did we literally never get there? Is that what we're saying? See, the problem is sometimes breakpoints are debuggy. So I don't. Huh. Let's put one there. Make sure we're breaking. We are. Target scope 2. So are we getting, if we were getting different results from generated by 4, oh, maybe we're overwriting it in this. Actually, oh, I bet that's what's happening. I bet we're not correctly returning generated by 4 somehow. Right? Is this... No, that one was fine. Second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one, sixth one. We die on the sixth one. So we could actually set a breakpoint specifically for that one. But yeah, it's a for expansion when we're just doing a regular for loop. And it's failing on both it and it index, which is no surprise. So let's actually go one step further. Right? We're going to have generated by... Oh, what the fuck? Come on, man. Emacs is very bad. Like, sometimes you just fat finger things, and it's not good. So here we're going to do this. Right? We're going to go assert target scope is equal to target scope 2, because I guess we determined, right? And then assert generated by 4 is equal to generated by 4, 2. Those are the only things in principle that we are returning from that function. So if one of them is the same, it's got to be the other one ain't the same, right? So I expect maybe this assert will go off now. Maybe it won't. It did, I think. Okay, so yeah, we didn't return generated by 4 correctly. So let's go back and look at this. Again, we don't set it in the loop. We only set it at the end. So maybe it's a num backticks thing. I don't think so, because we always... Oh. Okay. Here's the thing. This block here is... Okay, now I'm really confused. Okay, here... All right, so I messed something up. And for some reason, it didn't matter in the identifier lookup, but it does matter here. So here, this block is the call and closing scope. That's the one that we pulled out of the macro expansion record. This one is actually the one below that. That's the macro expansion record arrow block. Okay, so when we assign these things, we're pulling the values out of the wrong thing, right? So when we go to new temporary, these target is not right. Container is that. And I want container here, right? Theoretically. All right. European cores, dude, it takes so long. Okay, well now we're getting different scopes, which we weren't getting before. How'd that happen? Oh, maybe because we went longer. So like you might think, wait, how'd I break this on the thing we were debugging? And it's like, no, we do a bunch of these. Maybe we passed through a bunch more, and then later we're hitting a case that wasn't coming up before. And what is that case? Let's find out. And I could actually, if I remove this assert, I could go back in here and do this. But so where are we? I just want to know. Oh, bro, there's no oh. Let's just go somewhere where we have interp. Okay, what file is this? Sokoban source entity manager. All right, so it's entity manager line 470. There are lots of for loops over entities here. Yeah. So we're here. Okay. Here you go. This is a for loop iterator replacement. You say for colon all entities, blah, blah, blah. It has inside it another thing that has a replacement for. So this is a hash table, and the hash table lookup has an iterator. So we have an iterator inside an iterator, and maybe we have some problem where the things get crossed up. Okay, but like I said, maybe I want to switch to a pull model for this, right? Like maybe I don't want to poke from where I am anyway, because that's not good. But let's just take a look. We've already got big winnings today. It's time for me to go soon, to go out and hang out. But so this is one of these cases that starts to get confusing because, you know, because these get passed up from thing to thing. Oh, maybe that's what it is. Because remember how we had this thing that said, if these are backticked, export them in extra time. Now the problem is, if we export them in extra time, but we call this same function, I don't remember what the execution path looks like for that. If we called this same function, we would get the same result, even though we're trying to export them into different places, maybe. That could be what's happening. I don't know. Okay. Import backticked declaration. So these are probably in different files. Okay, one of the scopes is line 470, so it's this one probably. Okay, so first of all, let's check that we have 2 macro expansions on the stack. That might not even be true. No, we do. We have 2. And so we're probably getting the wrong one, right? So our target scope is the calls and closing scope. And, right, so if the one that we would have returned here is this, DB327C20. So that's probably target scope 2. Yep. Now, the right answer is probably this one, right? In closing scope 522-481B0. Indeed it is. Okay, so we have correct diagnosis, general diagnosis of the problem. We don't know exactly why it's happening, but it's like, look, we've got 2 macro expansions going on, right? So remember this. It's literally exactly what I said. You can't see because Visual Studio is dumb and gets confused, but the execution pointer is here. This is literally just what I said, where if the target identifier itself was backticked, we need to keep exporting. So, like, here's the thing. Maybe we could just put an offset in here of how far in the stack to go. I just don't know. Do we need an offset grid? I don't know if this can recurse indefinitely because I just don't remember the code very well. But like one way to fix this is in here, we know that we're inserting an extra 1 up. And so we could just say that. We could just say 1 more up. In fact, even though I want to go, we're going to try this really fast. There's other things we could do. Like we could peek the exact call off the stack, right? If the target identifier itself was backticked, we need to keep... No, I do think this can iterate an indefinite number of times is the problem. So actually, I don't want to try a quick hack for this because I know it's not going to work in the general case. Like you could do this 5 times in a row, and we should probably make a test case. We may have a test case that does that, but we should probably make one if we don't have it. So the problem is just we need to identify what is the correct place, and we actually might have it here. I don't know. So we're in import. So we're mutually recursing here. See, we're in import backtick declaration. We say, okay, put it in the scope where it wants to go. And then we're like, bro, but, you know, the link has a backtick probably, or how do we check it? Yeah, the link identifier has a backtick on it. So that's that backticked it and index that we see here, right? And this means, hey, these are receiving declarations from whatever the for expansion is for the hash table. But then we're also forwarding them on out of us, right? And so the question is, what is the most direct way to do this? And we may have I think this can only happen in a for expansion. This particular thing. So we could test that. Right? If this could only happen in a for expansion, then one thing we could do is we could say, that means this generated by for is non-null because we're importing stuff from a for expansion. Because this is non-null, we could then search through the active macro expansions to see which one this is. And then the one we actually want to use is the one right before that, right? That would uniquely identify, and we wouldn't have to do all these search operations. And that's probably also basically what we want to do if we want to do the pull model anyway, maybe. Maybe it would actually be simpler. But again, like, I'm just trying to fight. I don't want to jump all the way to pull model without clearing some of this stuff out. So that's what I think. So this is a piece of knowledge that we actually can get, though. All right. So this is an import scope modified declaration. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment out this stuff for now, because we're like one step removed from trying to make this work quite yet. So in import scope modified declaration, I want to say it is my hypothesis that if this is true, that this is not null. So we're just going to assert that and run all the tests. This is a very valuable, like we're poking at the system to remind ourselves or learn about it, right? Very valuable thing to do. So we're going to do that. And we're going to see, I might be wrong about this. And if I'm wrong though, then I get to learn why I'm wrong. And, you know, after about 17 steps of that recursively, it becomes confusing, but well, it's less than 17. But maybe I'm right. And if I'm right, we can use that information. And I won't do that now because it's time to go soon, but that would be our next fix. And then once we could do this, then we can combine those two functions into one. And then all of that use of backtick target scope will be done. And I think we might be able to delete it at that point, which is freaking crazy great. Okay, so let's try the tests. Sokoban is more complicated than any of the individual tests, but some of the tests do pathological things on purpose. So we're going to see what happens. It could be a wrong assumption, but you may lack a test case for it. That is also true. That is also true. That's just a peril of the business. One thing that you could do, because right now we're not even at the end. We're trying to iterate our way to a simpler system. Once we arrive at that simpler system, then I think we could start poking at it with test cases. Like, think about ways to break it that we don't already have, which is maybe not that simple because there's a lot of tests here. Do I even know what all these tests are? Not really. I don't remember them all. I didn't make them all. So, you know, but yes, it's correct what you say. But like once we've arrived at the new simpler system, it is a prudent thing to do to try to poke at it and preemptively break it. Because if we don't do that, then we end up sending it to beta people and they break it. Okay. From a for expansion, so we can find the macro expansion call expansion record, or a call that is tied to this generated by for, which is again, it's just a pointer field on this that I can follow back. So we find that and pass that to import backticked declaration so it doesn't use the topmost macro expansion. That's a relatively simple thing, and I feel pretty good about that. But that's where we're going to leave it for now. We're 3.5 hours into the stream. Again, I was expecting that maybe we would make no progress at all. So this has been great. Maybe we'll stream some more of this tomorrow morning. It depends when I get back if I'm going to want to watch a movie or if I'm going to... Because I got to take some break time during Christmas, right? So maybe I'll watch a movie tonight. Maybe I'll stream late tonight. Who knows? But I hope everybody out there has a good Christmas Eve or even Christmas. Is Demolition Man a Christmas movie? I don't remember. Is there Christmas in there? Let's find someone to raid because that's a Christmas thing. Who It's that same dude. We don't try to raid the same people twice, but we could raid him again. Merry Christmas. Okay. Sub goal 18 out of 20. That's a good sub goal. What is going on here? I can't. Okay. Oh, it's Rust. I saw the word cargo. Oh boy. Do you guys want to see some Rust? Do you want to see massive amounts of boilerplate? Look at how many viewers this dude has. All right, I'm sending you to Rust for Christmas. Thanks, everybody, and I'll see you later. Look at all the viewers he has. It must be awesome. He's also a furry. So he's got crabs, and that's all that you know. All right, thanks, everyone.